I practiced day and night for her farewell speech, but when I stood with the mic in hand, she walked out holding another boy's arm, leaving me speaking to an empty corner of the hall. I need to get this out. I can't sleep, can't eat, can't look at in the mirror without wanting to punch through the glass. 3 weeks ago, I was planning a surprise farewell party for my girlfriend Sarah. Today, I'm sitting in a studio apartment that smells like instant ramen and regret. Typing this on my phone because she kept the laptop. It would always start so small, doesn't it? Hey stranger, saw LinkedIn update about the promotion. Drinks to celebrate. Emma. My college friend Emma, who I hadn't seen in 2 years. Sarah knew about Emma, they'd even met once at a barbecue. No red flags there, just old friends catching, right? That's what I told as I typed back. When works for. Sarah was in the middle of her residency applications. Stressed beyond belief, working 18-hour days at the hospital, coming home exhausted and falling asleep on the couch most nights. We barely talked anymore except for her venting about difficult patients or impossible attending physicians. I felt invisible, like a piece of furniture she'd walk past without noticing. When Emma suggested we meet at that new cocktail bar downtown, I didn't even think to mention it to Sarah. Why would I? It was just drinks, innocent. Harmless. But when Emma walked in wearing that red dress, laughing at my jokes like they were the funniest things she'd ever heard, asking about my dreams and actually listening to the answers, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Sin, appreciated, wanted, looked tired, she said, reaching across the table to touch my hand. Sarah's lucky to have someone so dedicated supporting her through all this. The thing is, I didn't feel dedicated. I felt abandoned, taken for granted. Like I was just waiting around for scraps of attention whenever Sarah could spare them. Emma made me remember what it felt like to be someone's first choice, not their afterthought. 3 drinks turned into 6. 6 drinks turned into walking her to her car. Walking her to her car turned into sitting in the passenger seat, talking about how we'd both changed since college. How we'd both settled for less than we deserved. Her. In that parking lot, under the flickering streetlight, with Sarah's picture still in my phone's lock screen, I another woman and felt more alive than I had in months. This is complicated, Emma whispered, but she didn't pull away. I know, I said, and her again anyway. That was 3 months ago. 3 months of secret texts, lunch meetings that ran too long, working late, excuses that stood like ash in my mouth every time Sarah believed them without question. 3 months of becoming someone I didn't recognize. Emma started talking about her own relationship problems. How her boyfriend didn't understand her ambitions, didn't support her career. How she needed someone who really got her. How maybe we should both just be honest about what we wanted. I started believing her. Started thinking maybe Sarah and I had grown apart for good reasons. Maybe we wanted different things. Maybe I deserved someone who prioritized me the way I prioritized them. The worst part, Sarah was planning to surprise me too. She'd been saving for months to take me to that ski resort in Colorado I'd mentioned wanting to visit. She was going to propose during her winter break from rotations. I found the ring receipt in her jacket pocket the same week I booked a hotel room with Emma. The hotel happened on a Tuesday. Sarah was pulling an overnight at the hospital. I told it was the universe giving me permission, removing the obstacles. Making it easy. Emma cried afterward. Not sad tears, happy ones. She said she felt free for the first time in years. Said she was going to leave her boyfriend. Said we could finally stop hiding. I felt nothing but sick. Walking into our apartment at 2 a.m., seeing Sarah's coffee mug still in the sink from the morning, her medical textbooks scattered across the dining table, her fuzzy slippers by the door, everything looked different, contaminated, like I'd brought a virus into our home and infected every surface. Sarah woke when I got into bed, smiled at me with those sleepy eyes. How was work, baby? Smell different. New colon. I told her I'd stop by the gym. Another lie on top of the mountain I'd already built. She my forehead and went back to sleep, trusting me completely. That's when I knew I was going to have to tell her. Not because I felt guilty, though I did. Not because I wanted to come clean, I absolutely didn't. But because Emma was right, we needed to stop hiding. Except Emma wasn't leaving her boyfriend. When I called her the next day, ready to have that conversation about our future, she laughed. Actually laughed. Oh honey, didn't think this was serious, did her sweet but are not exactly boyfriend material. This was just stress relief. For both of us, she hung, blocked my number. Deleted me from every social media platform like I'd never existed. I destroyed my relationship for someone who saw me as a disposable distraction. A momentary escape from her real. I'd become the kind of person who throws away years of love and trust for absolutely nothing. But the story gets worse. Because Sarah found out anyway. Emma's boyfriend found our texts, confronted Emma. Emma panicked and told him everything, including Sarah's full name and where she worked. He called the hospital and asked to speak with Dr. Sarah Chen about her boyfriend's affair. Sarah wasn't a doctor yet. She was still a resident, in a competitive program where reputation meant everything, where gossip traveled faster than medication orders, where having personal drama could affect evaluations, recommendations, entire career. She came home that night not crying, not screaming, but quiet in a way that scared me more than any would have. Just sat on our couch and looked at me like she was seeing a stranger. Emma Rodriguez, she said. That's her name, right, from college. I couldn't even deny it. The evidence was everywhere, once knew where to look. The credit card charges. The weird schedule changes, stopped asking about her day, stopped being present even when my body was in the room. How long, she asked. 3 months, I whispered. 3 months. She repeated it like she was trying to understand a foreign language. 3 months of coming home to. 3 months of planning our future. 3 months of telling everyone at work about my amazing boyfriend who supports my dreams. That's when she told me about the ring. About Colorado. About how she'd been working extra shifts to pay for the trip. Staying late not because she didn't want to come home to me, but because she was trying to build the foundation for our together. I was going to propose on New Year's Eve, she said, on the mountain. I had this whole speech planned. The conversation ended with her asking me to pack my things. Not yelling, not throwing items, not making threats. Just asking me politely to leave that we'd built together. I begged. I pleaded. I promised it meant nothing, that it was over, that I'd never see Emma again. I told her I'd go to therapy, that we could work through this, that people make mistakes. She looked at me with those eyes I'd fallen in love with 4 years earlier and said, "The mistake wasn't the cheating, Mike. The mistake was me thinking we're someone or not." That was 2 weeks ago. Since then I've been living in this apartment that costs more than I can afford, eating cereal for dinner, and watching Sarah's continue without me through social media posts I probably shouldn't be looking at but can't stop from checking. She looks happier. Lighter. Like removing me from her lifted a weight she didn't even know she was carrying. Her friends are friends, they all know now. The group chat went silent when my number was still in it. The invitations to parties and game nights stopped coming. I've become the person everyone warns their partners about. The cautionary tale. The guy who'd everything in it away for nothing. But here's the thing that's really eating me alive. I don't think I'm even sad about losing Sarah. I'm sad about losing the version of who was worthy of someone like Sarah. I'm sad about discovering that when tested, when got a little hard and love required a little more effort, I chose the easy, selfish path. I'm sad about becoming the villain in a story where I used to be the hero. And Emma, she's still with her boyfriend. Posted a picture yesterday of them at some fancy restaurant celebrating their 3-year anniversary. She looks happy. Unaffected, like those 3 months never happened. I was just practice for her. A warm-up before she went back to her real relationship. Probably more committed than ever after her little rebellion phase. I practiced day and night for Sarah's farewell speech, planning every word I'd say about how proud I was of her. How much I believed in her future. How grateful I was to be part of her journey. Instead I became the reason she needed to leave. The first person to confront me was Sarah's sister Jessica. She showed at my office 3 days after Sarah moved out, marching past reception like she owned the building. My coworkers pretended not to stare as she stood at my cubicle, arms crossed, voice carrying across the entire floor. "You're a coward," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. 4 years of family dinners. 4 years of me defending to Dad when he said weren't good enough for her. 4 years of Christmas presents and birthday cards and treating like the brother I never had. My manager poked his head out of his office. The typing sounds around me stopped. 30 people suddenly found their computer screens absolutely fascinating while on every word. "Jess, please, not here," I whispered. "Not here." Her laugh was sharp enough to glass. "Didn't think about not here when we're texting side piece while Sarah was saving lives at the hospital. Didn't think about not here when we're lying to her face for 3 months." She leaned closer, lowering her voice just enough that only I could hear the next part. "She cried for 6 hours straight when she called me." 6 hours, I've never heard my sister make sounds like that. Like something inside her was breaking that could never be fixed. Then, louder again, "Stay away from her. Stay away from our family. And maybe next time want to destroy someone who loves, pick someone who deserves it." She walked out. Left me sitting there with 29 coworkers who now knew exactly what kind of person I was. The whispers started before she even reached the elevator. By lunch, the office manager was asking if I needed to take some personal time to sort out my domestic situation. By the end of the week, I was mysteriously passed over for the promotion I'd been promised. The one Emma had congratulated me about. The promotion that started this whole mess. Turns out cheating on girlfriend doesn't just personal, it ruins professional reputation too. Especially when girlfriend works at the same hospital system as half clients' wives. Word travels fast in a city this size. The social media fallout was worse. Sarah never posted anything directly about what happened, but she didn't need to. Her friends did it for her. Some people really show their true colors when gets challenging. Shout out to all the women supporting women through difficult times. Know who are and are amazing fee sisterhood and moving forward. When someone shows who they are, believe them the first time. The wisdom fake growth. Every post felt aimed at me. Every inspirational quote about betrayal and moving on was another public reminder of my failures. And the worst part, I couldn't respond. I couldn't defend without looking even worse. I had to just sit there and watch my reputation crumble one passive, aggressive Instagram story at a time. My own friends weren't much better. The group chat that used to be full of sports talk and memes went dead silent whenever I posted anything. When I tried to organize our usual weekend basketball game, I got 3 maybe responses and 4 people who just ignored the message entirely. Brad, my college roommate, was the only one who confronted me directly. We met for coffee at a place across town where I wouldn't run into anyone I knew. "Dude, what we're thinking?" he asked, not even bothering with small talk us like, "She's perfect for." Or she was. "It's complicated," I said, the same excuse I'd been using for weeks. "No, it's really not." Brad stirred his coffee aggressively. "Cheated, she found out. Broke her heart and humiliated her at work." "That's not complicated, that's just being selfish." I tried to explain about feeling neglected, about Emma making me feel appreciated, about how the relationship with Sarah had grown stale. "So talk to her about it," Brad interrupted. "Go to couples therapy. Work on it together. Don't sneak around with ex-college friend like still 22 and think with, never mind." He shook his head. "The guy's our man. Not just because we all love Sarah, but because now we have to worry about our own girlfriends trusting us. Made all of us look bad by association." That hit different. I hadn't considered that my actions would reflect on my friends, make their partners wonder what they might be capable of. I'd infected their relationships with suspicion just by being connected to them. "Are going to try to fix this?" Brad asked. "I don't know how," I admitted. "Maybe can't," he said. "Maybe some things can't be fixed once they're broken." He left me sitting in that coffee shop alone, staring at my phone, scrolling through pictures of that I used to have. Photos from Sarah's birthday last year, from our vacation to Maine, from the housewarming party when we moved in together. All of it felt like someone else's memories now. The worst moment came 2 weeks later. I was grocery shopping at the store Sarah and I used to go to together every Sunday morning. Our routine. Our thing. I was reaching for the coffee beans she liked when I heard a familiar voice behind me. "Excuse me." I turned around. It was Dr. Martinez, Sarah's attending physician from a rotation in internal medicine. A woman I'd met exactly once, at the hospital's holiday party 6 months ago. She was tiny, maybe 5'2", but the way she looked at me made me feel like I was shrinking. Mike, correct. Sarah's former boyfriend. The way she said former, like it tasted bad in her mouth. Like I was something unpleasant she'd stepped in. "Yes ma'am," I said, wanting to disappear into the coffee aisle. I thought should know, she said, her voice quiet but carrying absolute authority, that personal decisions have had professional consequences for Sarah. The rumor mill at the hospital has been unkind. Some of her evaluations have been affected by supervisors who question her judgment in personal relationships. My stomach dropped. What do you mean? I mean that in a field where trust and reliability are paramount, having personal become hospital gossip raises questions about decision-making capabilities. Fair or not, that's the reality. She stepped closer, still speaking quietly but with the kind of intensity that made me understand why she was chief of internal medicine at 38. Sarah is one of the most promising residents I've worked with in 15 years. She has the potential to save thousands of lives over her career. And selfish choices are that future. I hope whatever momentary satisfaction got was worth potentially derailing someone else's calling. She walked away without another word, leaving me standing in the coffee as realizing that I hadn't just broken Sarah's heart. I'd potentially damaged her career, her reputation, her professional relationships. The ripple effects of my choices were spreading further than I'd ever imagined. That night I found out Sarah had applied for a transfer to a different hospital system. Not because she wanted to go somewhere else, but because staying where she was had become professionally damaging. She was having to uproot her entire career path because I couldn't keep it in my pants. I tried calling her. The number was disconnected. I tried emailing. The messages bounced back. I tried reaching out through her sister Jessica, who told me in no uncertains that if I contacted any member of their family again, she'd file a restraining order. I was officially off completely. Surgically removed from the I'd shared with someone for 4 years. But the isolation was just beginning, because word was spreading beyond our immediate social circle. My mom called me crying 3 days later. Someone had told my Aunt Linda, who told my cousin Rebecca, who told half our extended family. My grandmother, the sweetest woman who ever lived, the woman who'd sent Sarah birthday cards and Christmas presents for 4 years, now knew her grandson was that kind of man. She asked me where she went wrong raising. My mom said through tears. Grandmother is 84 years old and she's questioning her parenting because her grandson turned out to be. I know what I am, Mom. Because I don't think understand that this isn't just about anymore. This reflects on our whole family. Father won't even talk about it. He's ashamed to tell people at work what happened. The shame was spreading like a virus, infecting everyone connected to me. My parents, my siblings, my friends, my coworkers. I'd made to be around. 2 weeks later I saw Sarah at the grocery store. The same one where Dr. Martinez had confronted me. She was in the produce section, looking thinner than I remembered, tired in a way that went deeper than just medical residency exhaustion. She saw me before I could escape. For a moment, we just stared at each other across the organic spinach display. 4 years of shared mornings and inside jokes and future plans in the air between us. She looked like she might say something, opened her mouth, closed it again. Then she just shook her head sadly and walked away. That head shake said everything: disappointment, pity, finality. I followed her with my eyes as she moved through the store. Noticed she wasn't wearing the necklace I'd given her for our anniversary. Noticed she'd her hair, changed her style. She was already becoming someone new. Someone who had never known me. At the checkout line, I watched her pay for groceries for one. Watched her load them into a car I didn't recognize. Watched her drive away from me for what I knew would be the last time. That's when it really hit me. This wasn't temporary. This wasn't something time would heal or fix. I had permanently altered the trajectory of both our lives and there was no going back. The person I used to be, the man who deserved someone like Sarah, was gone. And the person I'd become was someone I wouldn't want to know. Standing in that parking lot, watching her taillights disappear into traffic, I realized I was mourning to death the relationship I'd destroyed, and the version of I'd killed in the process. 6 months later I got the invitation to Sarah's farewell party. Not from her, from the hospital's residency program coordinator, who apparently hadn't updated her contact list and still had me down as Sarah's emergency contact. The irony wasn't lost on me. Dr. Sarah Chen's going away celebration, it read. Join us as we Sarah well in her new position at Seattle Children's Hospital. Light refreshments will be served. Seattle. She was moving to Seattle. 2,000 miles away from everything we'd built together, everything I'd destroyed. Starting completely over in a city where no one knew her as the girl whose boyfriend cheated on her with some random college friend. I stared at that invitation for 3 hours, turned it over in my hands until the edges were worn soft. I knew I shouldn't go, I knew I had no right to be there. But something inside me, some desperate, pathetic part of my brain, thought maybe this was my chance. Maybe I could finally say the things I'd been practicing for months, the apology I'd rehearsed until it was perfect, the explanation that might help her understand. The promises about becoming better, about learning from this, about how losing her had taught me what really mattered. I'd been carrying those words around like stones in my chest, getting heavier every day. And this felt like the universe giving me one last opportunity to let them out, so I went. God help me, I went. The party was at the hospital's conference center, the same room where they'd held the holiday party where Dr. Martinez had shaken my hand, and told me how lucky I was to have such a dedicated, brilliant girlfriend. The same room where Sarah had worn that green dress and laughed at my jokes and introduced me to her colleagues as the love of my. I arrived early. Too early. The caterers were still setting, and only a few people had trickled in. I found a corner near the back, next to a display of Sarah's achievements. Photos from her volunteer work, certificates from medical school, a newspaper clipping about her research on pediatric heart conditions. Looking at all of it, I realized how little I'd actually supported her dreams. How much of her success had happened in spite of me, not because of me. While she was studying for boards, I was complaining about her not having enough time for date nights. While she was working double shifts to impress her supervisors, I was feeling sorry for about eating dinner alone. People started filtering in. Doctors, nurses, other residents, hospital administrators. Sarah's knew her professional family, the people who actually knew the person she'd become. I recognized some faces from the few hospital events I'd attended with her, but most were strangers. Proof of how much of her world I'd been excluded from, even before I'd destroyed everything. Dr. Martinez walked in with a group of attending physicians. She saw me immediately and her expression shifted from surprise to disgusted in about half a second. She whispered something to the doctor next to her, who glanced in my direction and frowned. Then Jessica arrived, Sarah's sister who'd humiliated me at my office 6 months ago. She was scanning the room when she spotted me, and I watched her face go through the same progression as Dr. Martinez's: surprise, disgust, then something that looked almost like pity. She walked over to where I was standing but not to cause another scene. This time her voice was quiet, almost gentle. "Mike, what are doing here?" "I got an invitation," I said, holding the card like it was proof I belonged there. "From who?" she asked, though we both knew the answer. "Administrative error," I admitted. She sighed. "Need to leave. Before she gets here." "Don't make this about, I just want to say goodbye properly," I said. "I want to her well. I want to make feel better," Jessica interrupted. "Want to ease guilt by having one last conversation that makes feel like less of a terrible person. But this isn't about, this is her night, her celebration, her fresh start, and being here ruins that." She was right, I knew she was right. But I couldn't make my feet move toward the door. "She's happy, Mike," Jessica said, and something in her tone made me look at her more carefully. "She's actually happy. For the first time since I've known her, she's dating someone who treats her the way she deserves to be treated. Someone who celebrates her victories instead of competing with them." The words hit me like a physical. She's seeing someone. She's been seeing someone. For 3 months, a pediatric surgeon at Seattle Children's. They met when she was interviewing for the position. He flew down here twice just to take her to dinner. He sends flowers to the hospital with notes about how proud he is of her work. Each detail was a twist. The flowers, the pride, the effort. All the things I'd stopped doing long before Emma came into the picture. "She lights when she talks about him," Jessica continued. "The way she used to light when she talked about, before turned into someone who took her for granted." That's when Sarah walked in. She looked beautiful. Not just physically, though she'd gained back the weight she'd lost after our breakup. Her hair was longer and shinier. She was wearing a dress I'd never seen before in a color that made her skin glow. But it was more than that. She looked confident. Settled. Like someone who knew exactly who she was and where she was going. She was holding hands with a tall guy with dark hair and kind eyes. He was wearing a suit that fit perfectly, and the way he looked at her. The way he guided her through the crowd with his hand on the small of her back. The way he seemed genuinely interested in every person she introduced him to. I knew immediately this wasn't casual. This was serious. This was her future. I watched them work the room together. Watched him laugh at stories about her residency. Watched him shake hands with Dr. Martinez and immediately earn her approval in a way that had taken me months to achieve. Watched him pull out her chair when they sat down. Watched him remember the names of colleagues she'd mentioned. Watched him be everything I should have been but never was. The speeches start around 8. Dark. Martinez went first, talking about Sarah's dedication, her compassion, her bright future in pediatric cardiology. Other colleagues followed, sharing stories about her kindness, her work ethic, her ability to calm scared children and worried parents. I stood in my corner, listening to a room full of people describe the woman I'd loved and lost, and realized they were talking about someone I'd never really known. The Sarah they described was fully realized, complete, successful on her own terms. The Sarah I'd dated had been constrained by my neediness, my insecurities, my constant demand for attention and validation. Then they handed her the microphone. She stood, smoothing her dress, and looked out at the crowd of people who'd supported her, believed in her, helped her become who she was meant to be. Her eyes swept the room and landed on me for just a second, not with anger but with something worse, indifference. Like I was just another face in the crowd, like I was nobody special. "Thank all so much for being here tonight," she began. "When I started this residency 3 years ago, I never imagined how much this place would change me, how much would all change me." She talked about the patients who'd taught her about resilience, the mentors who'd pushed her to be better, the colleagues who'd become family. She talked about the opportunity in Seattle, about working with children who needed the most advanced cardiac care available. "I've learned that the best thing can do for the people care about is to become the fullest version of," she said. "To pursue dreams not just for, but for everyone whose might touch along the way." She looked directly at her new boyfriend when she said the next part. "I've also learned that the right person doesn't just support dreams, they make them bigger. They make braver. They make believer capable of things never thought possible." The applause was thunderous. People were crying. I was crying, standing in my corner like the ghost at the feast, mourning not just what I'd lost but what I'd prevented. How much smaller I'd made her world. How much I'd held her back from becoming this person who commanded a room full of successful doctors and made them all feel lucky to know her. After her speech, people lined to say goodbye, to take pictures, to exchange contact information. I watched the line get shorter and shorter, knowing I should leave, knowing I had no place in this celebration of her new. But I couldn't go. Not yet. I had to try. When the crowd finally thinned out, when it was just a few close friends and colleagues left cleaning, I approached her. Her boyfriend had stepped away to help fold chairs, and she was alone for the first time all evening. "Sarah," I said. She turned around and for a second I saw something flicker across her face. Not love, not anger, just recognition. Like seeing an old acquaintance forgotten used to know. "Mike." She said my name like it was a word in a foreign language she was trying to remember. "I didn't know we're here." "I got an invitation by mistake," I said. "Administrative error." "Ah." She nodded, like that explained everything. "Should probably go. David's meeting my parents later and," I practiced a speech, I interrupted. "For tonight, I've been working on it for months. What I wanted to say to," she looked at me with something that might have been pity. "Mike, don't, please, just let me, I need to tell that I'm sorry. That I know what I lost. That I know I destroyed the best thing that ever happened to me for someone who didn't even care about me. That I understand now how selfish I was, how much I took for granted, how much I held back from being who we're meant to be." She listened without interrupting, without changing expression. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "Thank for saying that," she said finally. "I mean it. But Mike, I don't need apology anymore. I needed it 6 months ago, when I was crying to sleep wondering what I'd done wrong, wondering if I wasn't pretty enough or smart enough or fun enough to keep interested. I needed it then. I know. I don't need it now because I've figured out that it was never about me. It was about insecurities and selfishness and inability to be happy with something good. And that's not my problem to solve anymore. She glanced over at David, who was watching us with concern but giving us space. I'm happy, Mike. Really genuinely happy in a way I never was with, even before the cheating, even during the good times. I was always walking on eggshells, always trying to be enough for someone who was determined to find reasons why I wasn't. Those words hit deeper than any anger could have. The truth of them, the gentleness with which she delivered them, the complete absence of malice or, she'd moved so far past me that I couldn't even make her mad anymore. I hope figure out how to be happy too, she said. But not with me, not in my. I hope find someone who makes want to be better instead of someone blamed for making feel worse about. She started to walk away, then turned back. And Mike, don't contact me again. Don't reach out to my family. Don't show at places where I might be. I've built a good with that in it, and I want to keep it that way. She walked back to David, who immediately put his arm around her and whispered something that made her smile. They said their goodbyes to the remaining guests and left together, her hand in his, talking quietly about something that made them both laugh. I stood in that conference as the cleaning crew finished packing, as the lights were dimmed, as the celebration of Sarah's new was officially over. I'd had my moment. I'd delivered my speech to an audience of one person who no longer needed to hear it. All those words I'd been carrying around, all those apologies and explanations and promises, they were just noise now. Background static in it that had moved on without me. I drove home to my studio apartment, sat on my futon that still smelled like instant coffee and loneliness and realized this was it. This was my now, not that I'd planned, not that I'd deserved, but that I'd decided that momentary excitement was worth more than lasting love. Sarah was moving to Seattle in 2 weeks, starting her fellowship in pediatric cardiac surgery, dating someone who made her bigger instead of smaller, living the she was meant to live, and I was sitting alone in a room that felt like a prison, typing this confession on my phone, warning strangers on the internet about the price of selfishness. I practiced day and night for her farewell speech, but when I stood with the mic in hand, she walked out holding another man's arm, leaving me speaking to an empty corner of the hall. The mic was never meant for me anyway.